I want to talk about the devastating news regarding the co-main event for UFC 324 happening next Saturday, as well as the fight announcements made by Dana White last night regarding the main event and co-main event for UFC Seattle, as well as a fight that was reported on earlier yesterday and then confirmed for UFC 327. So let's talk about it. And I'm gonna start with the headliner, the heavy hitter, the big news. It's just not good news, and that is that Kayla Harrison is out for her fight against Amanda Nunes next Saturday. And the reason is she's required to have surgery to repair herniated disc in her neck. It was reported by the Eagle Tribune and then confirmed by MMA Fighting and other outlets. She flew out to New York last week and consulted with UFC doctors who recommended the procedure and kind of said she had to have it. Wasn't really able to postpone it till later. And this is such a hit to this card. It was one of the most anticipated fights in women's MMA history, maybe even the most anticipated. I think that's fair to say. And to this be canceled, especially this is your first card on the new Paramount deal, and some people thought this should have been the main event, and I was one of those that felt that was fine. If people felt that way, I really couldn't argue with that. And when you take into account that they have history, they both trained at American Top Team until Nunes left in 2022, because she felt that a fight between her and Kayla Harrison was a looming possibility, and she just didn't want to be training there. That way they could kind of scout her easier, start developing a game plan, which is smart to not train next to someone who you could possibly be fighting in what she felt was possibly soon. And so with that history there, to kind of see this fight being canceled, it's just sad, and just a devastating kind of hit to MMA fans everywhere who were really wanting this fight, and especially if that was your main reason for wanting to watch this card, that it's not happening anymore. And I'd like to hear from you guys if that's if you kind of feel the same way, if you're still really interested in UFC 324 anymore, or if you're just kind of I'll watch it, but I'm not as interested as I was because this fight isn't happening. But just sad to hear that, and I think especially it would have been a very interesting fight. And what if their grappling was gonna cancel out each other? Was it going down to Nunes' striking? Because I think Nunes' striking is better than Harrison's. I think it's gotten better, but it's still not, in my mind, to the level of Nunes. So it's like, could Harrison get a takedown? And if she could she hold her down, be able to land some ground and pound, and then maybe look for a submission? Or was Nunes going to be able to get up and then, like I said, keep it standing and just kind of maybe be able to use her striking advantage to be able to beat Nunes? But very sad. They have confirmed that it is going to be rescheduled for later in the year. But they're going to say, they said 6 months from now to allow her to heal, as well as getting a full training camp. For me, I think it's probably not going to happen until September, October, maybe even November, or September, October, November, maybe even December is what I meant to say. And maybe save that for one of the last cards of the year. I think that's very possible. And I think it's smart for him to not have Nunes fight on this card, because the last thing you want to do is have her lose or not put on the greatest showing, and then you kind of kill some of the hype for this fight. And so they have announced they have promoted the fight between Sugar Sean O'Malley and Song Yadong to the co-main event. So I think that was a good move to just promote that to the co-main event. Just be like, Nunes, we're going to take you off, and just have her wait out until she can fight Harrison, because you don't want to kill the hype for it, and this might even help make it grow as the time passes. So just very sad to hear that. Would have loved to seen it, and especially they've done the promotional work for it. They've done that series of UFC Unleaded, Unfiltered. I can't remember the name of it. And now being this close a week out to be like, no, she can't go. So very sad. So next thing I want to talk about was the announcements made by Dana White last night for the main event and co-main event for UFC Seattle. And in the main event, you're going to have Israel Adesanya. He's coming back, and he's ranked number 6 versus Joe Pyfer, who's ranked number 14 or 15. I think this is a big fight, especially for both of them, for different reasons. You got Izzy, who's lost four out of his last 5, lost 3 straight. He's looking to get in the win column again, and so he can start to build some wins up, and so he can kind of get another shot at the title. Where you have Pyfer, who is ranked just at the start of the rankings. If he wins, this would probably jump him up to potentially Izzy's place as 6th or 5th. And now if you're him, you're 1-2 fights away from potentially a title fight. So it's a big fight for both fighters for different reasons. I think it's going to be interesting fight style-wise, because Joe Pyfer likes to use his wrestling, uses jiu-jitsu, uses judo to get you on the ground, use ground and pound, but also look for a submission. And if he can't, he's got decent boxing to be able to look and finish you that way. The trick is his striking is not to the level of Izzy. Izzy's got superior striking, obviously know about that kickboxing background, and he's got good takedown defense. It's very possible for him to keep the fight standing, defend those takedowns. And I think if he does that, what you're going to look to see him do is legitimately just find that rhythm, start, implementing the jab and then working everything off the jab like he likes to do in that first round, maybe midway through that second round, and then just kind of get in that flow state, kind of hit that cruise control, and just do that for the remainder of the fight. Play it safe, be technical, and he is kind of a technical fighter anyways, but really just play it safe, be that technical fighter he is, so that he can get a win. And then I think there's the question with Pyfer is, could he gas out? Could he legitimately, gas out in that second round? And if he does, that could be a problem for him. So I think it's a good fight. It's an interesting fight. If you're Izzy, you're taking a big risk. If Pyfer, you're kind of, if I lose, I'm probably maybe going to drop out of the rankings, or I'm going to stay where I am. But if you win, you're probably jumping in easily top 10. Like I said, probably going to be 5th or 6th ranked. So definitely a very interesting fight to have. Definitely can't wait for it. Then the co-main event is, I'm not as excited, but it does potentially have some title implications. I think could be a title eliminator, maybe not a number 1 contender fight, and that is Macy Barber, who's ranked number 5th, versus Alexa Grasso, who's ranked number 3rd or 4th, depending on what rings you look at. I think what makes this fight interesting too is they both like to take down. They both like to use those takedowns, but they like to do different things when they're on the ground. You got Grasso, who likes to use a ground and pound and then find a submission, whereas Macy Barber's kind of the opposite. She likes to mainly use ground and pound and then try and get in a submission when she can. One thing with her you saw in her last fight is she sometimes was so eager for the submission, she gave up position. There's always a phrase that says position before submission. And I would think that maybe that's something that she's going to work with on her coach, as far as, making sure she does that. And she's Macy Barber has, it's like a 6 or 7 fight win streak. So realistically, this could be the fight that gets her a title shot, or maybe at most one more. Or if you're Alexa Grasso, maybe if you win this fight, you get a title shot, or you need to win only one more before you get one. It's not a bad fight. And as far as striking wise, because when you have something like this where they both can grapple, and it may kind of negate their wrestling, because they both can wrestle, they both can defend the takedowns. Then it might come down to striking, and they're both kind of, striking is like on the same level. One's not really way better than the other. Kind of the situation we have with the main event with Izzy and Pyfer, where Izzy's striking is so much better than Pyfer's. They're kind of on the same level striking, so whenever you see fights like this, it can always be interesting on how is it all going to go. And then we go to the fight that was confirmed earlier in the day, or should I say reported earlier in the day, then confirmed earlier in the day for UFC 327, and that is Paulo Costa. I can't remember the dude's name he's fighting. He's undefeated. He obviously won his last fight, I think by knockout if I remember correctly, or it was TKO. But he finished it, I want to say by knockout or TKO. This is going to be a banger. And I mean that in terms of someone's getting dropped. Someone's going out. Someone's going to get finished. In my mind, whether it be TKO or a straight KO. We've seen the power that he has, and they both have. And Paulo Costa has power. They both have decent chins too. They both can take shots. And with this being the light heavyweight division, you've seen Paulo Costa have problems hitting the middleweight, and I think that has affected his performance as far as his cardio and everything. And so could him moving up in weight help from that happening? Possibly. And that's what I think makes this fight interesting. I just think it's going to be some haymakers be thrown, and someone's probably going to get dropped. Someone's getting rocked for sure. Potentially like a knockout. So not a bad fight. I think it's going to be a fun fight to watch. The one thing I will say, and I want to make a video on this because MMA Guru said it, there's other people said it, is Dana White has no enthusiasm anymore when it comes to making announcements. He just sounds so much like this and so monotone, like he's reading off of a script essentially. And I mean, I think someone you could put me, you could put an MMA Guru. I mean, name out any other MMA YouTuber, and we could promote this better. For example, of the Izzy fight, be like, man, Izzy, he's coming back. He's looking to get back in the win column versus the up-and-comer Joe Pyfer, who finished most of his fights in the UFC and fight history. You know, it's kind of both. It's a big gamble for Izzy with fighting someone that low in the rankings, and he could really use the win to kind of allow him to go on a run that would allow him to fight for the title again. And this would be a big way for Pyfer to jump a lot of names and to get a quicker title shot. I mean, just it's no enthusiasm. I think what also hurt it was people were looking for it being either a fight announced for the White House, whether it be the co-main or the main, or something, maybe the co-main, because the co-main and the main event hasn't been announced yet for UFC 327 in Miami, the fight that Paulo Costa and his opponent are fighting on. I heard some people say they'd like to see like a Pereira versus Gane for the interim heavyweight title, and then if he does that, and then you have Pereira vacate the light heavyweight title, then maybe you see Uri versus Alberg for the vacated light heavyweight title. So I can't blame him. I definitely think it was a bit of a lackluster, especially waiting not all day, but a good chunk of the day when he went up saying he's going to make a special announcement, to have it be just the main event and co-main event for a fight night. Even though I don't think they're bad fights, I think definitely the Izzy and Pyfer one is a bit bigger and more entertaining than the Grasso and Barber one. But I can't blame him. I definitely feel that where they're coming from. But yeah, that's it for me. I just want to get on and kind of share my sadness and kind of just heartbreak that the Harrison and Nunes fight isn't happening anymore. And we're not going to see it till September, October, November, maybe even December. depending on how everything plays out. And that's just regarding that nothing happens during the surgery or after it, that, any complications. And then my thought on the announcements and how I just don't think they're bad. I think they're not what people were expecting. And how I think Paulo Costa might have made a good move by moving up, but also could come back to bite him. It's going to be fun to see. But that's it for me. Love to, see read your guys' comments if you are still going to be entertained in watching UFC 324. If you're not, if you kind of are, but you lost some, what the thought was on the announcement last night. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Love it? Hate it? Somewhere in the middle? And yeah, just thoughts on all that news, and just would be interesting to see what y'all got to say. Like the video, comment. Like I said, like to see it, subscribe, because I'd love to be able to bring you more of these type of videos. But I'm out of here. Work hard, train hard, and have fun. Peace.